The year is 2000. The economy is booming. And the CEO of our 1,800 employee financial firm is on stage, beaming under the lights. He's just announced it was the single greatest year in company history. Profits are through the roof. And for the 2,000 of us on the sales force, the engine of the company, that meant one thing. Life-changing bonuses were coming. A month later, I got my bonus statement. The number on it? 0. A big, fat, insulting 0. And I wasn't the only one. They thought we would just take it. They thought we were powerless. They were about to learn a very, very expensive lesson in cause and effect. This is a story about what happens when corporate greed pushes the wrong people too far. If you believe that getting what you've earned isn't a privilege, it's a right, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you're about to witness a masterclass in professional revenge. Like this video if you're ready for justice, and let's dive into how one stolen bonus check unraveled an entire company. Back in the year 2000, I was a salesman at a major financial services firm, and when I say major, I mean it. We had 100 employees, a gleaming office tower, and a reputation for paying top dollar to get top talent. I was one of 200 salespeople, the guys on the front lines, the rainmakers. The culture was classic Wall Street light. Work hard, play hard, and if you hit your numbers, you were rewarded handsomely. The annual bonus wasn't just a perk, it was a core component of our compensation. It was the promise that kept us dialing, pitching, and closing deals late into the night. Every April, the company held its annual meeting. It was a huge affair, more like a rock concert than a corporate gathering. They'd rent out a massive hotel ballroom, fly in employees from all over, and the CEO would deliver a State of the Union-style speech. That year, he was practically glowing. He strode onto the stage to a standing ovation, his expensive suit looking like it was woven from $100 bills. The best year in the history of this great company. He boomed, his voice echoing through the massive sound system. He threw up charts on the big screens behind him, graphs with lines that didn't just climb, they went supersonic. Record revenues, record profits, record growth. And it's all thanks to you, he declared, pointing out into the crowd, especially our world-class sales force, who smashed every target we put in front of them. The room erupted. We, the salespeople, were cheering the loudest. We were high-fiving, clapping each other on the back. We'd lived it. We'd made those calls, closed those deals. We were the reason those lines on the graph went to the moon. And his words confirmed what we all believed. The bonuses in June were going to be astronomical. We weren't just thinking about a nice vacation. We were thinking about down payments on houses, paying off student loans, life-altering money. The next month, May, the process began. Each of us had to submit a memo justifying our bonus. It was a formality, really, a bit of corporate theater. I sat down at my desk and pulled up my numbers. I wasn't just good, I was one of the best. I detailed the explosive sales growth in my territory over the last 12 months. I calculated the exact percentage my sales represented of the company's total revenue. I laid it all out in black and white, a clear, undeniable case. Coming off the company's best year ever, with my numbers, it wasn't just a slam dunk, it was a foregone conclusion. The whole sales floor was electric with anticipation. The buzz was constant. What are you gonna do with the money? It felt like we were all holding winning lottery tickets, just waiting for the drawing in June. Then June rolled around. The day the bonus notifications were released. I logged into the payroll portal, a little knot of excitement in my stomach. I navigated to the statement page. The screen loaded. I saw my name. I saw the pay period. And then I saw the bonus amount. 0. Not a smaller number than I expected. Not a placeholder. A single, stark, digital 0. For a second, I thought it was a glitch, an error in the system. I refreshed the page. Still 0. I felt the blood drain from my face. My heart, which had been thumping with excitement, was now a cold, heavy stone in my chest. I looked up from my monitor, my eyes scanning the sales floor, and what I saw told me it was no mistake. The excited buzz from the weeks before was gone, replaced by a stunned, deathly silence. Here and there, I saw faces that mirrored my own shock. A guy 2 rows down just stared blankly at his screen, his mouth slightly agape. A woman near the window had her head in her hands. Then, the silence broke. A low murmur started, like the rumbling before an earthquake. Whispers turned into sharp, angry questions. Did you get anything?
Nothing.
Zip? Zilch? Nada. The reality crashed down on us all at once. It wasn't just me. It was almost everyone. The rumor spread like wildfire. Less than 20% of the sales force, the very people the CEO had called the core of the company, had received a bonus. The other 80% of us got nothing. The shock quickly curdled into pure, unadulterated rage. The sales floor, normally a high-energy symphony of ringing phones and closing deals, became a cauldron of fury. It was a mutiny in real time. Phones were slammed angry. Accusatory emails started flying, with people CCing half the executive wing. People weren't just upset, they felt betrayed, robbed. We had held up our end of the bargain, delivered a record-breaking year, and the company had just spit in our faces and picked our pockets. Our supervisors were immediately swamped by their furious teams. My supervisor, a guy named Mark, had a line of people outside his glass-walled office. We could see him inside, looking overwhelmed, holding his hands up defensively. The sales manager was getting an earful. The VP, the director, the entire chain of command was under siege. Then, the situation got 100 times worse. A crucial piece of information leaked out, and it was the gasoline that turned our bonfire of anger into a full-blown inferno. The supervisors? They had been offered bonuses. Not only that, they were allowed to determine the amount for themselves. The hypocrisy was staggering. They had denied the soldiers in the trenches their earned rewards, while the lieutenants got to write their own checks. To their credit, a couple of supervisors, knowing their teams were getting screwed, had the integrity to refuse their own bonuses. My supervisor, Mark, was not one of them. He took the money. When this news broke, his team, my team, cornered him. He tried to hold a meeting to clear the air. It was a disaster. He stood there, looking nervous, and tried to explain how he felt his bonus was justified, how hard he'd worked, how many hours he'd put in. He just didn't get it. He was trying to justify his reward to the very people he'd allowed to be cheated. One of my colleagues, a top performer named Dave, just exploded. "You think you worked hard?" he yelled, his voice cracking with rage. "I was in here on weekends. I missed my kid's birthday to close the deal that made you look good. We all feel the same way, Mark. We all worked our asses off, and we got jack shit while you lined your pockets." The room erupted in agreement, people screaming at him. Mark just stood there, defeated, as his authority, his credibility, and any respect we had for him evaporated right before our eyes. For the next week, the company ground to a halt. The sales floor was a ghost town. A lot of people just stopped showing up. The ones who did, like me, were there on principle. We clocked in, but we didn't work. The phones rang and rang, unanswered. The silence was deafening, a monument to our collective fury. I came in every day, sat at my desk, opened my browser, and went straight to monster.com. I spent my days reading want ads, polishing my resume, and firing off applications. I wasn't just looking. I was making a statement. Of course, it didn't take long for Mark, my now despised supervisor, to notice. He walked over to my desk, trying to project an authority he no longer had. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked, gesturing at my screen. I didn't even try to hide it. I looked up at him, my face a mask of calm indifference. "I'm looking for a new job," I said plainly. "I've stopped selling. I'm not answering my phone. I'm not responding to client emails." He stared at me, bewildered. "You can't just not work." "Watch me," I replied, my voice level. "Here's the deal, Mark. As soon as I receive the bonus that my sales from last year have justified, I will start working again. Until then, you can expect me to come in late, read and respond to want ads, and leave early. I will continue to do this every single day until I either find another job or you fire me. The choice is yours. He was speechless. He'd expected anger, shouting, maybe insubordination. He didn't expect a calm, calculated ultimatum. He just turned and walked away. The very next day, I was summoned. Not to Mark's office, but to the office of the regional sales manager. Let's call her Susan. Her office was a step up, plusher carpet, a better view. She was known for being a smooth operator, someone who could be your best friend or your worst enemy, whichever suited her needs. She greeted me with a warm, disarming smile. "Come in. Sit down," she said, gesturing to a chair. "So, I heard about your work stoppage. Mark is quite concerned. Why don't you tell me what's going on?" I just looked at her. "Susan, if you heard about it from Mark, then you already know exactly why I'm not working. I don't need to explain it again." The friendly mask flickered. She shifted gears. "Look, I get it. You're upset. But we're a team. We can't just have people deciding not to do their jobs. It hurts everyone." I didn't flinch. Withholding earned bonuses from 80% of your sales force hurts everyone a lot more. It signals that hard work isn't valued here. It signals that promises are meaningless. Her tone hardened. "This is blatant insubordination. I could have you fired for this." "You could," I agreed calmly. "But you haven't, and we both know why. Because firing me doesn't solve your problem. It just creates a new one." I leaned forward slightly. "Let's talk numbers, Susan. You're a manager. You appreciate numbers. The longer this company holds out on my bonus, the longer it's going to miss out on sales from my territory. I did the math for you." I then gave her my average daily sales figure from the previous year, a number I knew by heart. "It's been 3 days," I continued. "Your refusal to pay me the money I'm owed has already cost the company X dollars in lost revenue." I let that hang in the air. My bonus would have been significantly less than that. "Every day you wait, this number gets bigger. From a purely financial standpoint, it would be much, much cheaper for you to just pay me the money I earned and get me back to selling. It's simple math." Her face was a mixture of fury and shock. I had taken her tactics, the friendly approach, the stern warning, and met them with cold, hard logic. I had turned the conversation from my insubordination to her financial mismanagement. I stood up. "Thank you for your time, Susan. I'll be leaving for the day now, as soon as I leave your office." And I did. I walked out of her office, past my desk, grabbed my coat, and left the building. The following day, I came in and sat down at my desk. The first thing I did was check my emails. There were a few farewell messages from colleagues who had already quit over the stolen bonuses. The exodus had begun. I sighed, shook my head, and opened up monster.com. I hadn't been there for more than an hour when the summons came again. This time, it was the big one. The office of the national sales manager. This was the guy in charge of all 200 of us. He was the gatekeeper, the final boss. His office was on the executive floor. Mahogany desk, panoramic city view, the whole 9 yards. He was an imposing figure, a man who radiated power. He told me to sit. He started with a practiced, sympathetic tone. "I understand you're upset," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "And frankly, I can see why. There's been a breakdown in communication." I decided to cut right through the corporate nonsense. I looked him dead in the eye. "Let me ask you a direct question," I said. "Withholding the bonuses from 80% of your sales force, was that your idea, or did that decision come from higher up?" He was a pro. His face didn't change, but I saw a flicker in his eyes. He had not expected that question. It was a checkmate move. If he said it was his idea, he owned the mutiny he was now facing. If he said it came from higher up, he admitted he was just a messenger boy, with no real power. So he did what all skilled executives do when cornered. He didn't answer. Instead, he changed the subject. "Look," he said, leaning forward. "We value you. We value your work. You will be getting a check on Monday," he said, it like he was bestowing a great gift upon me. He then added, "So, can I count on you to go back to work now?" I stood up, my own sense of calm resolve, now stronger than ever. "I'll be going back to my desk," I told him. "But the work doesn't start until the check is in my hand. Not in the mail, not in the system. In my hand." I walked out of his office and back to the sales floor. As I sat down, I checked my email again. Sure enough, 2 more resignation emails had come in. The ship was taking on water, and the executives were finally realizing they were the ones who had drilled the holes. The very next day, an email went out to the entire sales force. It was a masterpiece of corporate backpedaling. "Management has taken a deeper look at the numbers," it read, "and after reevaluating the financials, we have determined that June bonuses will be issued to all qualifying personnel shortly." It went on to apologize for the delay and reminded us that as salesmen, we were the core of the company, and our hard work was deeply appreciated. It was the most insincere, pathetic piece of damage control I had ever read. But then, a second email landed in my personal inbox. It was from the national sales manager himself. The subject line was simply, "Your bonus." The email was short. It said that while the rest of the bonuses were scheduled for Monday, he would be personally walking my check over to my desk the following day. Friday, I had one. They had blinked. Friday morning, I came in, sat down, and waited. I didn't open my browser. I didn't check my email. I just sat there. The air on the sales floor was thick with anticipation. Everyone knew what was happening. Shortly after 10 a.m., I saw him, the national sales manager, emerging from the elevator and walking onto our floor, a man who probably hadn't set foot there in years. He walked with a forced confidence, but everyone could see it for what it was, a walk of shame. Every eye was on him as he navigated the sea of desks, a white envelope in his hand. He stopped at my desk. Without a word, he held out the envelope. It contained my check, the full amount I had earned. I took it from him. "Thank you," I said, my voice even. Then, I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a single, folded piece of paper. I handed it to him. It was my resignation, effective immediately. He unfolded it and read it, his face turning from forced pleasantry to utter disbelief. He looked up at me, his mouth opening and closing silently. I gave him a polite, professional smile. "In that letter," I explained, "I also formally request that a check for my unused vacation time please be cut and delivered to me before I leave the building today. I'll just clean out my desk while I wait for that to be processed." As the reality of what just happened washed over his face, a guy from the next cubicle over stood up. He was one of our best. "You know what?" he said loudly, so everyone could hear. "That sounds like a great idea." He walked over, handed the stunned manager his own resignation letter, and started packing his things. We were walked out by security at the same time, 2 revolutionaries being escorted from the palace we just helped burn down. The feeling wasn't anger or sadness, it was pure, unadulterated liberation. We walked straight across the street to a bar, ordered the most expensive scotch they had, and got fantastically drunk celebrating our freedom. I learned later from the friends I still had at the company what the final tally was. In the 2 months that followed that disastrous week, the company lost nearly 20% of its entire sales force. 40 of their best, most experienced, highest-performing salespeople just walked out the door. They tried to save a little money by stealing our bonuses, and in the end, it cost them millions in lost revenue, recruitment costs, and a reputation that was now permanently tarnished. They thought they were just numbers on a spreadsheet that they could manipulate. They forgot that we were people. They learned the hard way that when you break a promise to the people who generate your wealth, you don't just lose their labor, you lose their loyalty, and sometimes you lose your entire engine. Corporate greed doesn't always get the comeuppance it deserves, but when it does, it's incredibly satisfying. What's the most satisfying workplace revenge you've ever witnessed or been a part of? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and if you enjoyed watching justice being served, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with anyone who has ever been wronged by their boss. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.